Hey YouTube, it's me, Brandon Colonel again. The next video that I've got for you guys is basically a testing video of this knife that I did a really long time ago, the Frost Cutlery Little Black Talon. Now, I'm not exactly reviewing it again, so if you're looking at this video for a review, you can go back a couple of years in my channel and look for that review. But recently, somebody posted a comment saying that he basically thought my review was crap of this, and saying that if I want to say that this knife is actually great, then I should prove it, instead of just simply saying it held up in tests, show the tests. Okay, well, I'm going to do that now. I'm not going to, and if you're watching the video, then I'm not going to do everything that you were saying that I should do, such as the abuse tests of the knife, because to me, I'm not a knife abuser, so I'm not going to do these spine-whacking tests to see if it holds up and doesn't crack out or chip. For one, it's a $6 knife. Do I even expect it to hold up? It probably could, but I'm not going to test it like that because that is unrealistic circumstances, to the point where I don't feel that it's necessary. The tip stabbing test, just like stabbing it into random pieces of wood, sure, okay, I can do that. Carving, whittling, yeah, do that. And seeing if it can survive 100 slices through cardboard, yeah, I can do that. But abuse tests, no, that's not what a knife is intended for, so I'm not going to be doing anything like that. But without further ado, let the cardboard destruction begin. And every once in a while I will cut out the video, so just be aware of that, because I'm not exactly the best video editor, and I don't really know too many people that also have the time to be able to help me out, so every once in a while I will cut out the video, and just to kind of save a little bit of space on my camera. But I can assure you there won't be too much time in between, because it shouldn't take me too awful long to get through the cardboard. But also at the same time, I do have other tests that I'm going to be doing, such as going through wood and such like that. Oh, and as you can see, it is cutting through cardboard, but yeah, it is still fairly sharp, because I did just recently get done sharpening this thing. So as you can see, that it is somewhat tearing, but that's not from the cardboard. That's from the fact that this isn't that terribly sharp of a knife, as far as like what I've seen knives can get. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I've got about 6 cuts. I'm just going to say 6. me angle this down just a little bit. Yeah, that should be about 80 cuts right now. And yeah, there are noticeably a couple of nicks in here, which is as to be expected. It's not exactly a super seal, so not even close to expecting it to last up to even one of my CRKTs. So, the fact that after 80 cuts and it's still slicing this well, that's already putting a couple of nails in the coffin for the guy who was criticizing it. Okay, that's 150 cuts. Yep. Still slicing fairly well. And like I said, there are a few places where it's snagging, but overall, it's actually still fairly smooth. And it's still cutting very well. And there's 200 cuts that he asked for. As you can see, this thing is still cutting it quite well. And even the finish on the edge that I put on it, which I didn't exactly mirror polish on here or anything. I think I probably only took it up to 600 grit or so. But even the finish is still holding up. It doesn't even look all scratched up. For crying out loud, my Damascus knife, let me see if I've got that. Yeah. This knife by Knives Ranch, for crying out loud, half the testing of that knife, and the finish work on this was completely scratched up to pieces. And sure, it'll cut longer than any knife in my collection, but the finish work on it, it goes all to crap after half of that testing. And this is still holding up quite nicely. So just after that small amount of testing, then because honestly, usually I'd put it through a little bit more, but that's all that he asked for. Plus, as far as the cardboard testing, but he also asked for things along the lines of whittling and stabbing tests to see if it holds up. But like I said, I'm not going to do the spine whacking test to see if there's any stress fractures, because that's just knife abuse, and it's not necessary. If it holds up under normal circumstances that you would actually use this thing under, then I'd consider that successful testing. So, like I said, there's no abuse tests that I'm going to be doing beyond testing the stabbing strength. And if the tip snaps off, okay. But quite frankly, that's not exactly the weakest tip that I've ever seen, so I don't see it failing on me. Plus, I've used this as a throwing knife for quite some time, so yeah, I easily see that holding up. And I'm going to pause the video right here, so that way I can set up for whittling and stabbing. Okay, I'm back. Hopefully that'll actually stand up straight and tall for the duration of this part of the testing. Like I said, this is just the whittling test, to see what I can do with that. Basically just see how far I can get. I might have to pause the video again to go back inside and get some more paper. I did forget about that. But I'm just going to see how far I can go for now. Even though it's still pretty sharp, it's not exactly getting all that terribly far into the wood, but it is still able to shave fairly well. But quite frankly, also keep in mind the wood that I've got with me right now. Let me actually get out my CRKT Obaki as just a comparison. Okay. That's about the thickness of a piece that I can get off with the Obaki. Let me actually try for just a little bit deeper. Yeah. That's still basically the best that I can do, even with the Obaki. And I wasn't exactly putting a small amount of force behind it either. I was trying to really dig in there. So this is tough wood. And, wait, let me get that piece back. It was this one. And, let me try to get a little bit better piece than that. Yeah. Well, while it's not getting off any piece like this, also keep in mind, this did just go through 200 slices of cardboard, and this is basically a fresh edge with a mirror polish on it. But also, this is a $32 knife, this is a $6 knife. So, yes, it does whittle, and it'll do the task, but probably nowhere near as well as a more expensive knife. For the money, this is still a really great knife. Now I will continue the testing to see how long the edge will actually last, but after a while I will just simply cut off. And I'm actually going to pause it right here, so that way I can do it for a little while. Sorry about that. It decided to fall on me just as I was pressing play. But anyways, as I'm getting this up, I'll try to explain a little bit about what's going on. Hopefully I can edit this in hold on, just one sec. Hopefully I can edit this into something that makes a little bit more sense instead of having to just do it in two parts. It would have been just a single part if I could, but sadly the video, while it was on pause, decided to simply time out on me. So it just simply cut out. But let me show you what I've got so far. So far it's actually shaving it fairly well. Still not quite as well as a more expensive knife, but still that's not the point of what this video is for. It's basically just proving this is not a bad knife for the money. Checking on the edge, right about here, it seems like the edge is folding over just slightly. On this side there's absolutely nothing. But like I said, on this side it's just right here. It's nowhere along any other part. And the edge is still fairly sharp. Hear something, Max? What is it, boy? Apparently Maximus heard something. But yeah, let me go back to whittling for a little bit more, and I'll do some more on camera. Yeah, like I said, it's not taking off anything major, but it's definitely not the worst knife that I've ever tested. I've actually tested far worse knives at higher price ranges. I've tested knives at 2 and sometimes 3 times this price. I think there was one knife that I tested. I can't remember exactly how much it was or exactly what it was called, but it was basically some kind of clone knife that I was looking at. I knew that it was a clone. I just decided to test it out anyways, just for the sake of it. And that knife, I believe it was somewhere like a $20 to $30 range, and it still held up very poorly. So, it just goes to show that the price of a knife doesn't really matter. Because, like I said, this knife, $6, holds a fairly keen edge. Is it going just all to town on this like the Obaki was? No. But the Obaki is definitely a more higher-end knife. But this knife, it's still doing the job that it should do. And for $6, that's really all that you can ask of it. So this is actually doing quite well. And the ergonomics on this knife actually aren't that bad either. Okay, I'm pretty much just going to cut the video off here as far as that testing goes, and I'll just do it all in one take of going back inside, so that way, you know, I haven't touched up the edge or anything. But I am going to move on to the stabbing portion now, and show you what that's going to do. Let me get this out of my holder here. I'm trying to find a place where I can still see the screen, because seeing as I've got it aimed towards me and I'm doing it on my phone, Gotta do it where I can actually see both of them at the same time. Okay, there we go. That's decent. Hopefully you guys can see that. Okay, that grip is fairly uncomfortable. I'm going to choke up a bit. As you can see, no deformation of the tip, and it's holding up fairly well. The wood, yeah, you can see I've been digging into it. The tip's doing its job. So, nothing wrong with this tip whatsoever. Let me just screwdriver this in for a minute. Yep, absolutely nothing. Let me see. Yeah, and there you go. That hole right there was made by basically just screwdrivering this knife in. Sorry if the camera was going all funky angles on you guys. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to see exactly where this camera is going, seeing as it basically does whatever you tell it to, except rotate. So, going back inside now, just to do a couple of paper tests, see how sharp this thing is. Let's see, where's some paper real quick? That should work. Okay. Got some stupid skylight thing. Noticeable chips in the edge, but not enough to truly slow it down. So, is this going to be a long-term camping knife? Eh, you could probably take it as a camping knife. Probably could. Maybe use it on wood that hasn't been seasoned for a while, because what I was cutting up was actually firewood that's been seasoned for quite some time, which, quite frankly, is harder wood. So, yeah, you could probably use this as a camping knife, and it'll cut through regular branches a little bit easier. As just an everyday EDC blade, yeah, I could easily see that. The sheath actually allows for a tip-up or horizontal carry, just vertical or horizontal carry, because you can slide a belt loop in through that way, or through the top, just to simply shift it around that way. So it actually allows for multiple carry options. Now, it's not exactly a MOLLE compatible thing, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I wouldn't really put it on that. You could probably tie some paracord and rig something up quite easily. But yeah, this, excuse me, I could easily see this being just an everyday companion. Sure, you might be carrying another knife, as I usually am. I mean, even though I've always got my obaki on me at all times for various tasks, I've also got a folder on me at all times. And today it's the Spyderco Myrtle, which there will be a review on this knife sometime in the future. I have no clue exactly when. I'm hoping that this knife breaks in a little bit more by the time that I actually do a video on it, because right now it's still being a little picky on when it likes to fire. So I'd like it to smoothen out just a little bit. But yeah, enough about that. Back to this knife. The knife handles the tip stabbing incredibly well. It's not exactly the best wood slicer, but then again, for one, it's still a fairly thick knife, and it's a fairly small knife. So, thick and small, the grind isn't exactly that shallow, so it's not the best slicer, but it's beefy. So therefore, yeah, it could handle whatever you throw at it. And seeing as I've literally used this as a throwing knife, it's actually surprisingly balanced for a knife of this size and of this price range. So it works out as a throwing knife. If you want a cheap throwing knife, use this. As you saw, it can handle the tip. The tip can handle whatever you do to it. In fact, I've actually grinded down the tip a couple of times to make a more acute point. I've grinded it down on this side using basically the gut hook section of my knife sharpener, actually. My Smith's diamond file, I think it is. It has a gut hook section, so that way you can sharpen the tip of that. And basically just other things like that. You can actually sharpen just standard hooks. But I use that to kind of file down both sides and make a more acute tip. And it still holds up. The tip is still fairly acute. So is the knife the best thing in the world? No, it's not. Is the sheath the best thing in the world? Oh, heck no. Is it quite impressive for $6? Oh, yes. This is actually probably the most impressive knife for the price range that I have ever bought. This is one of the cheapest knives that I've ever bought, and it's by far a knife that I am continuously impressed with every single time that I come back to it. Because every single time that I come back to it, I continuously think, wow, this thing, it was $6. I came to it to pick it up just to see what it was like, what it felt like in hand, because it looked like a novelty knife. And at the time I was still kind of impressed with novelty knives, because I was really early in my collection phase. So, I got this knife thinking, another novelty knife to add to my collection. I got it in hand and I was like, wow, this actually feels really nice. I felt the factory edge and I was like, yeah, not the best. But there's just something about it that feels like it has potential. Even at that time, I could feel the potential in a knife. Now, was there times that I was wrong? Yes. But usually, I wasn't. And so I put my own edge on it, and it got really, really sharp. Now, I still never really carried it around with me, and it more just stuck to being like your standard yard work blade. But it did its job as a yard work blade. So I put it through its paces even before I got to this video. I did the testing of this knife before I got to this video. This knife can handle whatever you put in front of it. Would I doubt that if I did the spine whacking abuse test, it would be able to handle it? No, I don't doubt that it could handle it. Am I going to do it? Still, no. Because I have no intentions of it intentionally trying to break this knife. I have no intentions of doing that. Because I don't want to see just what it can handle, because for one, that means I've got to order another one. Because honestly, if this breaks, I will be ordering another one. Because I actually do quite like this knife. It's a perfect, basically, abuser knife. Now, I know that I just got through saying I don't intend on doing abuse tests to this knife, but it's a perfect little abuse knife. If you want to do something to it that say I really don't want to do to my Spyderco Myrtle, guess what? I got this thing. If it say I know that I need a fixed blade for the job, but I don't want to do it to this knife for whatever reason, because I really do like this knife, and I don't intend on abusing this one. Guess what? I can do it to this one. It's a perfect little beater knife for when you know that you need something strong, you know that you need something sturdy, but you don't want to mess up any of the knives, even though you say that you bought them for that task. You don't want to mess up any of your good knives. So I can easily go to this one, because taking a vocabulary word from Cutlery Lover's book, this is pretty much a disposable knife. It's $6, it'll last you a really long time, and you can beat the crap out of it. So is this the best knife on earth? No. Is it a phenomenal knife for what it does? Yes. And that's really all that I'm trying to say with this knife. So, as always, YouTube, stay safe.